Wayne McCulloch was unable to achieve this in January of this year. Well, hopefully John Lowey's going to do it in December. Erik Morales still lives at home with his parents. He has no responsibility. My responsibility is to my wife and my 3 kids who are still back in Ireland. And that's why I'm here, determined to lift this belt and take it back to them.
Very impressive, and John Lowey is a man of his word because he did come out in the first round to try and show Morales who was boss.
Take a look at the numbers in round number 1.
Well, Morales may have ended up with more punches landed, but I gave Lowey the round primarily because of the number he threw, and I thought he overall dictated the tempo of that round.
Lowey referring to Wayne McCulloch, another Irishman now fighting out of the Boston area, who took on Daniel Zaragoza in January and lost.
And by the way, should Morales win here tonight, there is much talk that McCulloch would be his next opponent. So,
what if Lowey won? Would he fight McCulloch?
That would be very intriguing. You think that fight could make some money in Ireland? Possibly. By the time Erik Morales is through with the year, should he win tonight, he'll be talking with a brogue.
What about him needling Morales?
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating, talking about Erik living at home and how maybe the world's responsibilities hadn't caught up with him yet. I love that, though. You know what? I love what John Lowey's doing. He's doing everything he can to show that he's not intimidated. Even that move, which was a little illegal, but just kind of bullying Morales around.
And also anything to distract Morales from using his technique, and there's Morales ripping off the combination.
And you know, as I'm sitting here watching this, I'm thinking to myself, if you're going to beat Erik Morales, you know what? You're going to have to pressure him because he thrives on his own pressure. When he can come forward and push you back, it makes Erik Morales a 50% better fighter, but when he has to go back, he's not used to it.
Chance of Erik.
And because of that, the plot has thickened here early in this bout. Lowey has had a longer layoff than he had now. He was off from 1991 in December to 94 of March when he had a long layoff.
That was all part of his move from Ireland
yes.
to the United States.
And getting himself situated here.
Final 10 seconds of round number 2. Erik Morales making the first defense of his WBC Super Bantamweight Championship in Tijuana against John Lowey on ESPN's Championship Boxing. Erik Morales springs out of his corner as we begin round number 3. Bob Papa, Al Bernstein in Tijuana, Mexico. Morales making the first defense of his WBC Super Bantamweight Championship against John Lowey. And we take a look at numbers from round 2.
Morales again with a very slight edge. I again gave the round to Lowey, primarily because you see he threw 13 more punches. And I thought generally dictated the tempo of that round a bit. But you see these rounds are close.
If you just tuned in, Morales was in his corner in prayer at the start of round 1. The bell sounded, and Lowey did a sprint across the ring and just attacked Morales. And that has set a tone in this bout.
For those of you that have watched boxing on ESPN many years, Terrence Ali used to do that. He sprinted across the ring at his opponents and often would gain a big advantage early by doing it.
There's one, as you take a look at Al's scorecard.
I gave both the rounds to John Lowey. Now, mind you, that may not be the way the judges saw it because they were both pretty close rounds, but I thought he dictated the tempo.
There's one common opponent for these two boxers, Lee Cargill. Morales scored a second-round knockout against Cargill in 1996. Lowey has 2 knockout wins against Cargill, one coming in 1990 and one in 1994.
Lee is a journeyman who has fought just about everybody in the lower weight divisions. We've seen him here on ESPN. We saw him against Todd Foster. Not a bad fighter, but just not up to the caliber of these guys.
Al, is Morales getting into his rhythm, or is he still a little off?
He really isn't. He's having a hard time getting his punches in. There was a nice counter right that may have hurt Lowey. The style of Lowey is so herky-jerky, and he's been so aggressive. Oh, there's a clash of heads, and that created a cut on the left eye of Morales. Now, point will be deducted.
Accidental headbutt. Accidental headbutt.
Accidental headbutt.
All right?
So the rule is 1 point will be deducted from Lowey.
Minus one point.
And this is the dumbest rule.
It's the worst rule in boxing. The WBC should be ashamed of itself for having this rule, and I don't know why they do. And it's an organization that I have to say has made great strides in other areas of rules in the last few years, and safety, etc., and no reason to have that rule. It's wrong. It was accidental. How do you even determine who caused it? Just because the cut turned up on Morales' eye, he could have caused the accidental clash. You never know. But that cut's in a bad spot.
Now the bout must go 4 rounds for it to go to the judges' scorecards. If it is stopped before the 4th round is completed, it will be a technical draw. And Morales will keep his title, but you're right. It's ruled accidental by a referee, and then someone loses a point over it.
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
Absolutely ludicrous. That's how Frankie Randall ended up losing his title match against Julio Cesar Chavez. It hurt him in that instance. And now, if you're John Lowey, you better go after Morales and try and win this round, because you've already lost a point here.
Final seconds of round number 3. Erik Morales and John Lowey on ESPN's Championship Boxing. Cutman Miguel Diaz working on the right eyebrow of Erik Morales. A clash of heads in round number 3. An accidental headbutt, but Lowey loses a point because it was Morales who was cut.
And here's the fascinating point. Morales is the one that pushed his head in. See, this shows how absolutely ludicrous this rule is. Not that Morales was trying to butt him or cause that, but he's the one that pushed his head in. He got cut, and Lowey loses the point.
It was an accidental foul. Accidental. How do you score the round out?
I made a 10-8 for Morales because I thought he did win the round, landed more punches, and because he got the extra point, it's 10-8. And there you see how close this bout is. Lowey throwing more. And Morales landing at a little better clip.
The heads come together again.
Come on, box.
And Morales, I think, doing a bit of an acting job there.
Nice hook by Lowey. He is doing an acting job, because I don't think John Lowey is creating this.
Now that time I believe Lowey's head was the lead in maybe the clash of heads, but now he's trying to draw sympathy.
You know what's fascinating about this bout? There you see my scoring. I had the first 2 rounds for Lowey. The interesting thing here is it's amazing how styles give people trouble. You just look at this bout now and you see it. This is not the right style for Erik Morales to shine with. It just turns out that way. And you wouldn't even know it until you saw him in the ring, even if you'd seen tapes of Lowey. It just has turned out that way.
Approaching the midway point of round 4. Remember now, every time Morales throws a punch, whether it lands or not, this crowd roars.
There is the jab by Lowey. Now, Erik has not been able to get his jab in. There's a nice right hand to the body of the head. Morales shaking his head, thinking that Lowey is again using his head to hit the cut. I grant you that they've had some heads clashing, but I don't feel like Lowey is doing it intentionally. There's Morales using the jab. Erik Morales has a very nice jab and really should be using that punch a little bit more. The 1-2 by Lowey. A very nice round 4 here, and getting this crowd into it finally.
Erik Morales gets a rise out of the crowd. 30 seconds to go in round 4. Best sustained action from the champion. Crowd trying to urge Morales on. seconds of round 4. Back with round 5 after this time out on ESPN.